hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Thanks for that intro. Like he said, I was an operations director for a team of about 20 or 30 for about 4 years. Follow Up Boss was my baby with that team. So when you get the opportunity to work with hundreds of teams as opposed to just one, it's a no-brainer, right? So I've been here for a little over 2 years now, and it has been such a fun ride. Like, I get to work with the biggest teams, and I still can't believe that I'm a part of this lineup today. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little intimidated. Such great information here. Lots of really great nuggets. I learn a lot from you all as teams every day. So it's really an honor to be a part of this. If I have worked with you before, you do know that I am a data nerd. I really love to dive into metrics and see how they're serving us, how they're not, what can we modify. So when they approached me with the topic of metrics that matter, it was just one that just flew right off of the brain here. So I want to dive into some tactical pieces today on how to get these metrics that truly matter and then what to do with them. So we're going to talk about some simple things today. We're going to define vanity metrics for you all. We're going to talk about how to do daily activity, part of our daily grind, to implement this with our agents. And then how do we drive that in the right direction? Launching us into some action items where you can begin this today with your teams as a team lead so that you are headed into 2024 with the right mindset. And so the first thing that we want to do is, like we said, is define these vanity metrics. And we're going to keep it very simple, very surface level. It doesn't have to be complicated. Our vanity metrics are going to be those individual metrics that are not giving you an overall picture of what's happening in your Follow Up Boss account and what's happening to your level of success. So there are single criteria metrics that you have in your Follow Up Boss account that very well could be very important, but it's just one piece of the puzzle rather than that full puzzle. So we want to take those single criteria metrics, find the ones that are most important, and then build them together so that we can get that full analysis and picture. So how do we get started with this? As a team lead, for accountability and coaching, we can't do anything with metrics until we get our mindset right. You see a lot of buzz in our Facebook success community that if it didn't happen in Follow Up Boss, we assume that it didn't happen. It is not here. It doesn't matter if you have a $5 million property listed that you're communicating with. If it's not there, we can't measure for it. We can't coach you. We can't hold you accountable. So getting that mindset is going to be incredibly critical. You can't have metrics without activity inside your Follow Up Boss account. So that it has to start there. One of those really critical pieces that I want to emphasize. But then getting that mindset right, the way that we get our team to go with us is to lead by example. You're going to want to live and breathe inside your Follow Up Boss account right alongside with them. You are going to be the champion of this account. When you as a team lead became a team lead because you have credibility, you have proven yourself for success to where you can coach and guide others. And in order to build that credibility, it is that leading by example. If you're not in production anymore, you can still live and breathe inside your Follow Up Boss account by communicating, at mentioning your agents on those contact profiles, listening to their calls, using their Follow Up Boss account in your meetings. So even if you're not in production, you can still use that as your source of truth for that business here. That is what I see these big teams doing. They are leading by example. They have someone that is that champion to own Follow Up Boss, understand it, and not leave the agents to be the ones to try to master it. If we get those particular things begun, we can then start to look at our daily grind to implement this with our agents. And again, we keep this very simple because if it's not simple, it's not going to get done. So the first thing that you need to do is log into your Follow Up Boss account and make sure that your database is defined. I'm going to pop over to our demo, and just for a few screens, if you're an account owner, under your admin section, you can review the stages that you have for your individuals. You want to make sure that these stages are clearly defined and understood by your agents so that we can categorize your database based on who this person is in terms of that business. When we have those stages defined, we then define how often we want to follow up with them by building very simple smart lists for them to surface those people of who to call and when. So when we have that definition of our database, you're not going to have agents come and complain to you that they don't know who to call. They have hundreds, maybe thousands of people. You've got leads falling through the cracks, and then you have frustrated agents not really knowing what to do. This guidance, this credibility, again, coming from things that you have done yourself to get yourself to the level of success of a team lead or a CEO or an owner, whatever that looks like for you. Those are those pieces that have to begin. If your database is not defined, our metrics aren't really going to show us much because we might not be approaching them with the proper strategy. We want to log all of our communications, our appointments, and our deals inside Follow Up Boss. Again, that source of truth mentality. If you are not utilizing your calling and texting features that are associated with your account, you're behind. I highly recommend you get on board with those pieces here, because that is where you're going to start to see these things come to life in real time. We know that agents are busy. They are not in this industry to sit behind a computer and go through a lot of tech that we are really interested in. They want to connect with people and be out in the field. And so we are using this as a tool to allow them to connect with those people. So when they're using those calling and texting features and they're logging that information because of their day-to-day interactions, that's bringing your metrics to life, and it's also saving them a lot of time, giving them that source of truth for your particular contact. But when we're logging those appointments here and we have those deals, those contracts associated, this is where the source of truth for business comes to life. So we are able to use our Follow Up Boss account from both angles: what's happening with our clients, closing more deals, and then now we can reflect and see exactly what's happening. If your database is not defined, if you're popping in and taking a look at it, I highly suggest you get an appointment on the calendar with your success manager to get that piece started. We love to talk growth and strategy and make some recommendations if you feel like you need some guidance. So don't hesitate to use us for that. With those two pieces, our database is defined, we're logging the communication. That is what's going to allow you to start setting an expectation of Smart List Zero. When we have these surfaced in your people tab, I like to tell people this is your proactive outreach, proactive people. They should know to pop in here every single day, not have to sit here and scroll through and figure out who to call. Making those numbers very workable, very easy for them to know exactly who to call, text, and email today and get those communications out there. It's very easy to get down to Smart List Zero. If they are not getting them down to Smart List Zero, this is one way that you can start to see maybe who's slacking a little bit, maybe somebody that has too many leads, or we just need to start to work through education on how to use these a little better. Your final thing for your day-to-day grind is going to be consistency. It has to be consistent and correct in order to move forward to give you metrics that truly matter on a larger scale. If you don't have that consistency and you're logging in once a month, you're back at square one because your database is no longer defined. You're not logging your communications. You don't have Smart List Zero because we're out of control. So that consistency becomes a very real approach. We have to do this every single day. Now, starting to drive this in the right direction with our agents. We want to preach activity. We want to preach those things and we want to get them in there. But what does that mean to them? What ultimately means to them is they want to make more money. They need to provide for their families, and you do as well. And so the best way to get behind getting in a database is, why are we doing this? We want to have a goal, whether it be to buy a new car or send our kids to college. And so talking about those things from a team perspective and from an agent perspective. You all have probably seen this chart of SMART goals before. It's one of my favorites to talk through because when you're talking through setting your goals with your team, they need to be specific. They have to be measurable. And if you're doing your daily implementation in Follow Up Boss, they're going to be measurable. They have to be attainable, and you have to have that conversation with them. If you as a team lead have a $500 million volume goal for your team, but you only have 5 agents and each of their individual goals are 5 million, the math's not there. So we have to figure out how we're working together and making sure that both of our goals are attainable. And of course, they need to be relevant and time-based. Anything without a deadline on it is just a dream. And I know that we all know that today. So getting those pieces in as you're having those conversations and then getting them into Follow-Up Boss. You've probably already seen this. It's about a year old, but this was one of my favorite things that was released late last year was our agent goals report. So as a team lead, you're going to be able to see what their goals are and use this in your coaching opportunities. You'll see everybody's goals. They'll only see theirs. So you can actually click on them individually and get that full snapshot of what's happening year to date in their individual Follow-Up Boss account. Now, because you're putting everything in, this snapshot becomes very clear. We've got our deals in there and we've put our commission goal. We're pulling the information from your deals tab towards their goal, and this works as a thermometer for them. So they get really excited when that thermometer starts to grow, or maybe they get stressed out because it's not growing as much. But being able to just review, chat through, and just start your one-on-ones with that snapshot. I recommend you looking at this with your agents at least once a quarter, if not more, if you have the time. One of the other really fun things on this report is just if you're looking for culture and morale building, they can put their personal goals in here as well. They're not going to be measured the same way that your commission goals are going to be inside Follow-Up Boss. But if you're looking for that coaching, that rapport building, a lot of teams I see will talk through their goals beyond their financial goals. They look at the different equities of life, their family goals, their physical goals, their intellectual goals. And so just putting those in there to chat through them very quickly. And when they're done, you get that nice little satisfactory cross through off the to-do list and see what the year is shaping up for you. Going through one-on-ones. Hopefully you already are. If not, again, I highly recommend having regular one-on-ones weekly. If you have the time, at least twice a month, 15 or 20 minutes is all it really needs to be. Again, just looking at that snapshot. So the agent activity report is one of my favorite ones to look at in those one-on-ones on that weekly or biweekly basis. Again, you built, sorry.
We're still looking at the smart slide. I think you're in yeah.
Is it not? Oh, okay. It's not swiping over. Thanks for letting me know that, Ethan.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. I have them on two different screens, so I thought swiping over would share it. Can we see the Follow Boss account now? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go back to that goal screen just so that you can lay eyes on that here under reporting agent goals, that snapshot, all of those particular pieces, those personal goals are right here. And this is where that little thermometer is going to be for you. So circling back to, if we're going to go to those one-on-ones, that agent activity report, you're going to see those particular pieces right here inside the account when it comes to everybody, but segment it down individually when you're meeting with them one-on-one. Change that time frame to the last time you guys came together. One of those pieces here that you have is make this very simple. You can actually modify these columns so that when you are talking with them, you're only looking at the things that matter. Maybe those notes that you use and the tasks that you associate are not part of that big picture for you when it comes to activity driving production. So if we see here that we have Alejandro has made 100 calls this week and we don't have any appointments set, that is an opportunity to start the conversation of, are we calling at the wrong time of day? Do we need to change up time of day? Are you calling the wrong type of lead? Are you cold calling? That's not our best practice. What you got,
Paige?
Tristan? Yeah.
I think this one is so important because it does what you're saying, but it also, and I know you do this, it also can help us understand if somebody's emotionally okay. Like, hey, you're calling so many people, but something's happening. Like, how are you doing? Right. And then we can get to sometimes to the crux of the matter, which is, you know what, I'm not doing well. Something's happening at home, or I'm sick or something. So I love this one for that reason. It opens up the conversation to much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that too. That rapport building too that we were talking about when we were looking at that agent's goals. Diving into that relationship building is incredibly important to focus in beyond success, but also the health of our agents. This report leads me into a deeper analysis of those things. Like Tristan said, if you're doing, how are you doing? And then we're looking for, I'm really struggling. I've made a lot of attempts today, but I'm just not getting appointments. That takes me into the calls report, which is going to be segmenting out, because we're using that follow-up boss number. We're actually going to be able to pull out the metrics when those calls last longer than a minute or 2 minutes. So those are the ones that you can start to look through. If we've made a lot of attempts, but we're not having any conversations, that's when we can start to, again, work backwards and see what's working for us and what's not. If we have a lot of conversations here and no appointments, these numbers actually become clickable and take you to a list of those conversations that have lasted longer than 2 minutes. If you have call recording turned on, go and listen to those with your agents. Work on the scripting, work on the objection handling. If you find a call that is just killer and you want to share it with the team at a regular meeting, extract those and use that for your advantage. It's not for big brother style of making sure they're doing what they're supposed to. It is to guide them and to coach them. And because we have these metrics in here, we can pinpoint and find those places much, much easier. So this will allow us, again, to begin to start to analyze, on average, how many calls are you making? How many appointments are you securing? And how many deals are you closing this year? And start to work backwards to create your KPIs that are custom to your agent's level of success, knowing what's going to be attainable for them and maybe give them a little bit of a push on those as well. One quick thing to review when you're in your one-on-ones, again, this only has to be a minute or two, but speaking back to what Travis and Andrew were talking about in their session about making sure that our texts are intentional, they're delivered, and that we're talking to the right people, this report is going to give you some insight on your delivery rate. Are you getting a lot of opt-outs? Are the carriers filtering your language? We want our text messages to be delivered to those right people so that we have those particular things and get connected with those. And again, these numbers, there will be your names here and those numbers. I'm in a demo account, so we wanted to keep data private. You'll be able to click on those, review the text messages that are getting filtered, double check and make sure your delivery rate is good. You want to make sure the performance of your number is at status quo so that it is performing well. So just a quick glance here, your delivery rate looks good. Your calls are looking great going into those particular pieces. These things need to be evaluated once a week, if not twice a month, at least when you're working with your agents, so that these daily goals can launch into your monthly, your quarterly, and your annual goals and that big picture for the entire year. As a group, this should be happening on an individual basis and a one-on-one basis. But we also want to continue to build that camaraderie as a team and as a unit. And one of the things that I really love to do is utilize the leaderboard for that. We are all competitive by nature in these particular pieces, and especially in this industry. We have to be. The competition is fun, it's friendly. And so I see a lot of my big teams really gamify this. Maybe you have a big TV in your big conference room that you put this on and project it and run monthly or weekly competitions. All of this day-to-day activity that we're talking about, we're assigning points to them for doing what they're supposed to do. And they are weighted based on what's going to get you closer to a contract. So we know that emails matter. We know that communication matters. It's probably not going to close the deal for you, but we know those appointments will. So you can hover over these and see what the points are allotted for each one of those. And I see a lot of my teams, January 1st is coming. We're going to start a monthly push effective that day. At the end of January, whoever has the most points gets dinner on the team lead. Or maybe you go for a collaborative competition where we're going to set a total number of points that we're all going to contribute together. And then we're going to have a family team outing. Those types of things. Again, it's just driving that activity and encouraging them to do what you need them to do so that you can dissect and give them those metrics that truly matter. You will see here from the activity leaderboard, as your deals are in here as well, we have those pieces And most of the time, the ones that are in the top 3 on the activity leaderboard, and when I say most, I say probably 99.9% of the time, they're going to be in the top 3 for your deals leaderboard as well, because that activity is driving the production. They're able to analyze what they're doing, what's serving them, and what's not. These daily habits and goals make these numbers and charts so much more meaningful. Without the goals and without those metrics, these are just lines in your database. So if you're not looking at this on a regular basis as a team lead, highly recommend you get started. And you can get started today by, again, going and make sure that your database is defined. That's your action item number 1. Action item number 2 is look and check in on your agents and see whose activity is there and who's not. It's going to start allowing you to have the conversations with those and how we're going to start driving this in the right direction. And then, of course, sit down with them for the end of this year, if you haven't done that already, and get their goals established and put directly into your Follow Up Boss account. I think we have a couple more minutes. I really appreciate you all being here and giving me the time to be a part of this. But if we have any particular questions, or Tristan and Ethan, if you have anything you want to add here.
No, Paige, I think what you went through is a lot of us, single agents, even smaller teams or large teams, we go through the process that you took us through, the headers, but we don't go in deep. And sometimes we forget that they're there. And I loved that you went through it step by step, because I was thinking, I'm like, oh, damn it, I need to do that. I do that with my team. I was like, how did I forget about that one? So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is my favorite thing to like really look at and analyze. I get on calls with people and they're saying, okay, I'm not seeing a lot of calls by this agent. Do you think I should fire him? I'm like, well, we need to analyze and look through. We need to look through some other big picture things here too. Maybe he was sick last week. Like you said, is he okay? We don't know. So yeah, all of this, again, tying it together so that we don't have the vanity metrics. We're not focusing in on just one piece of our account.
I appreciate the flexibility in the reporting as well. The idea that you can tweak it to make it useful, not just for you, but for the other people. This is to serve you, right? And so this idea of being able to switch out some of the presentations to guide the conversation in the way that you want to makes so much sense.
Awesome stuff. Do we have any questions that we want to address?
We have a lot of love for you, Paige, which is amazing. We did have one question that I had a question on too. I'm going to scroll up. It was one about an example for emails. Here it is. Can you show sample of mass emailing? Is that a possibility or no?
Yeah, sure. I'm paranoid now. Is my screen still sharing? Can you still see the inside?
Yes.
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 Okay, perfect. So if you're mass emailing, and again, if you're looking at doing this in bulk for like your holidays, or, reaching out for a community event, again, make sure that content, kind of like what Travis was talking about earlier, make sure that content is geared towards them and specific, but pull your list based off of your tags or your stages, or, if you've got your past clients. Once you filter through that and you get the database and you get the audience that you need, just selecting right here by the name and select that entire list, and your batch email icon is right here. It looks like a one-to-one for your contacts. So it doesn't look like they've been carbon copied with 200 people. They have no idea who they are. And it doesn't look, specific, or it does look specific, excuse me. If you're really tech savvy and you're getting into like knowing HTML, we do support that now so that they can be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but they're designed to look like those one-to-one emails. You can schedule these out in advance. So again, be thinking about like your holiday wishes that you want to send out for the rest of the year and for the end of 2024, and even pulling maybe from some of those templates. So lots of options here.
I'm thinking, Paige, right here. I'm thinking just in the next few weeks, months, as ChatGPT gets better with this, but I want to just have it code a nice newsletter with certain colors for me, and then grab the HTML code and dump it in here, and then it's all ready to go. That's the power of this whole thing and bringing it all together,
Yeah, marry those two subjects together.
Yeah,
the HTML is new for us, so take it away, Tristan. Put some videos in the Facebook group for that, how people can do that.
I'm just gonna be like, hey, you know what? Make me a flyer of 10 things sellers need to be doing right now for them to get the most for their home if they want to sell it. boom,
Right.
HTML it, drop it in here. Now it's going through FUB. I can track everything. This is going to be amazing.
Well, and to circle it all back together, we have metrics on these as well. So in your reporting tab, this is not one I plan to show, but since we're talking about it, you're going to get to see who it was sent to, if there was any delivery failures, who's opening, if you're using URLs in those to click through and start to segment out and see who is engaging with your content, what's performing and what's not. So another really great way to kind of analyze is your content serving you.
But Paige, what do you find the biggest challenges when you're talking to teams, since you're part of this whole real estate world as well? The challenges for teams using this whole section when we're looking at agent activity, property lead sources, all of these. What do you find the biggest challenges?
Oh, that's a good question. I think when we're getting started with building a team, as teams grow, the more people that find success in Follow Up Boss, the more people are likely to like jump on and follow and to start like growing together. When we're getting started and we don't have a champion or we don't have a team lead that's not championing, I can't say that word, not being the champion of Follow Up Boss, there's hesitation on activity. And so then there's hesitation and tension around the accountability. So that buy-in becomes incredibly important, starting from the top down. That will allow them to, it's not that, again, like you said, it's not just accountability to be a big brother. It's to coach you and I both for the big picture that we've started together. So I think mindset really is a big piece there that is tough to begin with. But once you have that, you're golden.
I love that mindset. Yeah, I agree.